Bola, you better tell me who impregnated you now before I give you a dirty slap. Oh my God, what has this girl done to me? Where have I gone wrong to deserve all this humiliation? Who did I offend? Mama, Bola said, rolling on the floor and crying bitterly. She stood up again. Bola, who impregnated you? Don't make me ask you. Again, it's Bola stammered. Who? Mama, Eniola screamed. Shola's son. Bola said, trembling in fear. Shola's son? Bola nodded her head. Okay, put on your clothes. Let's go there now. Bola and her mom arrived at Mama Shola's house. Good morning, Mama. Bola, you've come so early. Shola is not ready yet, and I'm still preparing Ifo Riro. Mama Shola's face carried a mix of confusion and curiosity. Mama Eniola didn't waste any time. Mama Shola, I didn't come here for pleasantries. I'm here for a serious matter, she said, her tone sharp with anger. Mama Shola adjusted her wrapper and frowned. What is it, Eniola? I hope there's no Warala. It's about your son, Mama Eniola said firmly. My son? Wetting he do? And which of them are you even talking about? Mama Shola asked, her confusion showing. Bola, talk now. Which of her sons put you in this condition? Mama Eniola barked, nudging her daughter to speak. It's Shola, Bola stammered, trembling under her mother's glare. Mama Shola gasped, slapping her thighs in disbelief. Shola? My own Shola? Abomination. That boy doesn't have time for nonsense. He's well trained. He no fit do this. My daughter no go lie. She knows who got her bell. Mama Eniola fired back, her voice rising. Your daughter? That one wee day waka up and down, laughing and talking with every boy for the street. How do you know it's my son? Abeg, don't bring this kind talk here. Mama Shola snapped, folding her arms. Don't insult my Pekin, Mama Shola. I came here as a fellow mother to settle this matter like adults. Shola, come out here now. Mama Eniola shouted. Shola came out of the house hesitantly, looking shocked to see Bola and her mother. His eyes darted nervously as he met Bola's tearful gaze. Shola, Mama Shola said, pointing at him, this girl is saying you're the one that got her pregnant. Is it true? Shola shifted uncomfortably. No, Mama. I don't even know her that well. I've never been alone with her. You see, my son no even sabai your daughter. This is a false accusation, Mama Shola said triumphantly, waving her hands in dismissal. Bola broke down, tears rolling down her cheeks. How can you deny me, Shola? You promised me you'd always stand by me. Enough. Mama Shola shouted. Eniola, carry your daughter and go. My son is innocent. Mama Shola, if your son get this bell and he's denying it, he will not find peace in his life. Mama Eniola shouted, her voice shaking with anger. Abeg, leave my house. Mama Shola snapped. Take your curses and go. My son has nothing to do with your daughter. Bola and her mother left, humiliated and heartbroken. As they walked back home, Mama Eniola couldn't stop crying. Bola, see the shame you've brought on me. After everything I did to raise you well, this is how you repay me. By disgracing me like this. Mama, I'm sorry, Bola muttered, tears running down her face. Sorry no go change anything, her mother said, shaking her head. You'll have to stop school for now. Focus on the baby. While your mates are writing exams and moving forward, you'll be at home nursing a child. Bola's life changed drastically after that day. She had to drop out of school as her mother insisted. Every day, she helped around the house while dealing with her pregnancy. One afternoon, a few months later, Bola decided to confront Shola after countless unanswered calls. She spotted him at the market near their house. Shola, Bola shouted, running after him. Shola froze, but when he saw her, he quickly turned to leave. Don't you dare walk away from me, Bola yelled, catching up to him. Why are you doing this to me? Why are you avoiding me? Her voice cracked as tears streamed down her face. Shola sighed, avoiding her gaze. Bola, I'm sorry, he said softly. I told my mom about your pregnancy, but what? Bola snapped, her voice rising in frustration. She told me to deny it, Shola admitted. She said I have a future to think about. I've been accepted into university, and she doesn't want me tied down with responsibilities. She also reminded me that I've been betrothed to someone else since I was a child. Bola stared at him in disbelief. Betrothed? And you didn't think to tell me this when you were promising me the world? You've ruined my life, Shola. I didn't want this to happen, Shola said weakly. I still love you, Bola. But I can't go against my mother. Not now. Bola shook her head, her heart breaking all over again. You're not a man, Shola. You're just a puppet. Don't ever talk to me again. She walked away, tears blurring her vision, leaving Shola standing there, guilt written all over his face. Later that evening, Bola went to her friend Aisha's house. Aisha was a few years older than Bola and had been like a big sister to her since childhood. Bola, what's wrong? Have you been crying? Aisha asked, pulling Bola into a hug. I saw Shola today, Bola said, her voice shaking. He said his mother told him to deny me. He said he can't be with me because he's been betrothed to someone else. Aisha sighed, shaking her head. I told you from the beginning, Bola. That boy and his family were trouble. You should have stayed away. I loved him, Aisha, Bola said, wiping her tears. He was my first. How was I supposed to know he'd turn his back on me? Love isn't enough, Bola, Aisha said gently. You have to think about yourself and your baby now. Forget about Shola. Focus on your future. I'll try, Bola said, though her heart wasn't in her words. The next day, Shola sent someone to give Bola a phone he had bought for her. She accepted it reluctantly but didn't tell her mother where it came from. When her little sister, Ki Hind, saw the phone, she blurted out, Mommy, Auntie Bola has a new phone. I think Shola gave it to her. What? Mima Eniola exclaimed, her eyes narrowing as she turned to Bola. Who gave you this phone? It's not from Shola, Bola lied quickly. It's from Aisha. She gave it to me yesterday. Mima Eniola stared at her daughter, unconvinced. I'll speak to Aisha tomorrow. If you're lying to me, Bola, you'll regret it. The following day, Mima Eniola went to Aisha's house to confirm Bola's story. Aisha, good afternoon, she greeted sternly, wasting no time. Did you give Bola a phone recently? Aisha hesitated for a moment before nodding. Yes, Mama. I gave her my old phone. I thought it would help her keep in touch with people she might need for the baby. Mima Eniola's face softened a little. Thank you, my dear. I was worried she was still in contact with that boy, Shola. If you see anything suspicious, let me know. I'm trying my best to guide her, but it's not easy. I understand, Mama, Aisha said. Bola's been through a lot, but she's strong. She'll pull through this. With her doubts eased, Mima Eniola returned home. However, Bola's relief was short-lived. Shola kept calling her, asking to meet. One evening, after much persuasion, she agreed to see him. Bola, I'm sorry for everything, Shola said when they met at their usual spot. I know I hurt you, but I've missed you. I want to be there for you and the baby. You've already denied me and the baby, Shola, Bola replied bitterly. What's the point of all this now? I didn't have a choice, Shola pleaded. My mom forced me to deny you, but I swear, I love you. I even bought this phone for you so we can stay in touch. Bola's heart softened a little despite her anger. Shola, I don't know if I can trust you again. You've already broken me once. Just give me a chance, Shola begged. I'll prove to you that I'm serious. Against her better judgment, Bola agreed to keep seeing him in secret. They continued meeting whenever her mother wasn't around. Shola even helped around the house when Bola's mother traveled for a family event. One weekend, when Mima Eniola was away, Shola spent the entire weekend with Bola. They fixed the generator, cooked together, and spent time watching movies. But their quiet weekend was interrupted when Bola's nosy neighbor, Mr. Aid, knocked on the door. Who's there? Shola asked nervously. It's your neighbor, Mr. Aid called out. PHCN has restored the power. Bola sighed in relief and opened the door. Thank you, Mr. Aid, she said, trying to sound casual. As soon as Mr. Aid left, Shola came out of his hiding spot. That was close, he said. Too close, Bola replied. This is why I told you we should have gone to a hotel. If my mom finds out, we're finished. I'll leave early tomorrow morning, Shola reassured her. The rest of the weekend passed quietly, but Bola couldn't shake the feeling that their secret wouldn't stay hidden for long. By Sunday morning, Shola woke up early as promised. He packed his things and prepared to leave before anyone could notice he had been there. Are you sure no one saw me coming or going? Shola asked Bola nervously as he adjusted his backpack. No one, I made sure of it, Bola replied. Just leave quickly before the neighbors get curious. I'll see you soon, Bola, Shola said, leaning in to kiss her. Take care of yourself and the baby. I love you. Bola nodded, watching him leave with mixed emotions. She closed the door behind him and sat on the couch, feeling both relieved and anxious. The next day, as her mother returned from the wedding, Bola made sure everything in the house was spotless. She didn't want her mother suspecting anything. Bola, I'm home, Mima Eniola called out, setting her bags down. How was everything while I was gone? Everything was fine, Mama, Bola said, rushing to help her mother with her things. Good. I hope you behaved yourself. I don't want to hear any stories, Mama Eniola said sternly, looking around the house as if searching for something out of place. Yes, Mama. I stayed home the whole time, Bola lied. But the peace didn't last long. A few days later, Mama Eniola received a call from her neighbor, Mr. Aid. Madam Eniola, I wanted to let you know something, Mr. Aid said hesitantly. What is it? She asked, her heart sinking. I saw that boy, Shola, leaving your house early Sunday morning. I didn't want to get involved, but I thought you should know. Mama Eniola was furious. She stormed into the house, where Bola was sitting on the couch. Bola, she shouted. Come here right now. Bola jumped up, startled. Mama, what is it? Don't play dumb with me, her mother snapped. Did Shola come to this house while I was away? Bola hesitated, her mind racing. No, Mama. He didn't. Don't lie to me, Bola, Mima Eniola shouted, slamming her hand on the table. Mr. Aid saw him leaving this house. You've been sneaking around with that boy after everything I told you. Bola burst into tears. Mama, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. You didn't mean to? Do you want to ruin your life even more? You think that boy cares about you? He's just using you. I love him, Mama, Bola said through her tears. And he said he loves me too. Love? Mama Eniola scoffed. Love doesn't make a boy deny his responsibility and leave you to face the consequences alone. You're stopping this nonsense right now, Bola. I won't have you ruining your future any further. Despite her mother's warnings, Bola found it hard to let go of Shola. She felt trapped between her love for him and the weight of her mother's disappointment. Days turned into weeks, and Bola's pregnancy became more noticeable. Her mother's disappointment remained palpable, but she continued to care for her daughter, ensuring she attended antenatal appointments and ate well. Bola, however, struggled internally, torn between her feelings for Shola and her mother's disapproval. One afternoon, as Bola sat outside peeling yams, Aisha came by. Bola, you look exhausted, Aisha said, sitting beside her. How are you holding up? I'm trying, Bola replied with a weak smile. It's just hard. My mom is always angry with me, and I don't know what Shola really wants anymore. Aisha sighed, shaking her head. Bola, I've told you before. That boy doesn't deserve you. Focus on yourself and your baby. Stop letting him confuse you. I know, Aisha, but it's not that simple, Bola said. He keeps calling, saying he loves me and wants to be there for me. But every time I believe him, he lets me down again. That's because he's not serious, Aisha said firmly. If he truly cared, he wouldn't have denied you in front of his mother. He wouldn't make you go through all this alone. Bola nodded silently, tears welling up in her eyes. I just wish things were different. As the months passed, Bola tried to keep her distance from Shola. She focused on preparing for her baby's arrival and helping her mother around the house. But one evening, Shola showed up unexpectedly. Bola, he called softly from outside the gate. Bola hesitated but eventually went out to meet him. What are you doing here, Shola? If my mother sees you, there'll be trouble. I had to see you, Shola said, his voice low. I miss you, Bola. I miss us. There's no us anymore, Shola, Bola replied, crossing her arms. You made your choice when you denied me and this baby. I didn't have a choice, Shola said, stepping closer. My mom forced me to say those things. I still love you, Bola. I want to be a part of your life, of our child's life. Bola shook her head, her emotions swirling. You're too late, Shola. I've been doing this on my own, and I'll keep doing it on my own if I have to. Go back to your mother and your so-called betrothed. I don't need you. Before Shola could respond, the gate creaked open, and Mema Eniola stepped out. Shola, she exclaimed, her eyes blazing with anger. What are you doing here? After everything you've put my daughter through, you have the audacity to show your face. Mema, please, Shola began, but she cut him off. Don't mama me, she shouted. You're not welcome here. Leave now, and don't come back. Shola hesitated, looking at Bola one last time before turning and walking away. Bola, why are you still entertaining that boy? Mema Eniola asked, her voice trembling with frustration. Haven't you learned your lesson? I wasn't entertaining him, Mema, Bola said quietly. He came here on his own. Well, it ends now, her mother said firmly. You're about to become a mother yourself, Bola. You need to focus on your child, not on a boy who doesn't respect you or this family. Bola nodded, tears streaming down her face. She knew her mother was right, but her heart still ached. As Bola's due date approached, the tension in the house eased slightly. Her mother became more supportive, helping her prepare for the baby and offering words of encouragement. Despite everything, Bola began to find strength in herself. When the baby finally arrived, a healthy baby boy, Bola held him in her arms and felt an overwhelming sense of love and purpose. She realized that no matter what happened with Shola, she had a reason to keep going, a reason to build a better life for herself and her son. As Bola cradled her newborn son in her arms, she felt a strange mix of emotions, love, fear, and determination. The baby's soft cries brought a sense of purpose she had never felt before. He was tiny, fragile, and completely dependent on her. You'll be okay, my little boy, she whispered, smiling through her tears. I'll make sure you have a better life. Mema Eniola entered the room, her expression softening as she saw her daughter and grandson. He's beautiful, Mema Eniola said quietly, sitting down beside Bola. What will you name him? I was thinking of naming him Aomide, Bola said. He's my joy. Aomide, her mother repeated, nodding approvingly. It suits him. For the first time in months, the tension between them seemed to ease. Holding her grandson, Mema Eniola smiled, a rare moment of peace washing over her. The weeks that followed were challenging. Bola had to adjust to the demands of motherhood, sleepless nights, constant feeding, and endless diaper changes. Her mother helped as much as she could, but Bola knew she had to take responsibility. One day, while Bola was out fetching water, she ran into Aisha. Bola, you look exhausted, Aisha said, giving her a concerned look. I am, Bola admitted. But Aomide is worth it. He's my everything now. I'm glad you're focusing on him, Aisha said. But you can't stop thinking about your own future, Bola. Have you thought about going back to school? Bola hesitated. I want to, but how? Who will take care of Aomide? And where will I get the money? There's a program I heard about, Aisha said. It helps young mothers like you return to school. I can find out more if you're interested. Really? Bola's eyes lit up for the first time in weeks. That would be amazing. Please, Aisha, find out for me. I will, Aisha promised. A few days later, Aisha returned with good news. The program she mentioned was run by a local women's organization that supported young mothers with childcare and education grants. With Aisha's encouragement, Bola applied and was accepted. As she began attending classes again, Bola felt a renewed sense of hope. Her mother took care of Aomide during the day, allowing Bola to focus on her studies. Despite the whispers and judgment from some people in the community, Bola held her head high. One afternoon, while Bola was studying, Shola called her. Bola, I heard you had the baby, he said. Can I see him? Bola paused, her heart racing. Why? So you can deny him again? No, Shola said. I want to be part of his life. Bola took a deep breath. Shola, if you want to be in Aomide's life, you'll have to prove yourself. No more lies, no more excuses. You'll have to show me and my family that you're serious. I will, Shola promised. I'll do whatever it takes. We'll see, Bola said, ending the call. Over time, Shola began making an effort. He visited regularly, brought supplies for the baby, and even apologized to Bola's mother. Though Mema Eniola remained cautious, she acknowledged his attempts to take responsibility. Bola, however, didn't let herself get swept away by his promises. Her priority was her son and her future. She worked hard in school, determined to create a better life for Aomide. Years later, Bola stood proudly at her graduation ceremony, Aomide by her side. She had earned a degree in business administration and was ready to start a new chapter. As she looked out at the crowd, she saw her mother, Aisha, and even Shola, who had remained involved in Aomide's life. Bola smiled, holding Aomide's hand tightly. She had faced heartbreak, judgment, and countless challenges, but she had risen above it all. Join me next time for part 2 of this captivating story. Trust me, you won't want to miss it before you go help me grow this community. Hit the like button for more thrilling content, subscribe for new uploads, comment below with your theories and reactions, share with friends and family who love a good story. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, being an amazing part of this journey.